Well, hello, Crystal. How are you?
Wonderful. Thanks for chatting today. I'm so excited to discuss the possibilities and see what you're feeling about what's coming up in astrology and the forecast ahead.
Well, this is a great weather forecast, astro weather forecast, you could say right now, because there's a lot going on, a lot. And I think the last time we chatted, there was a lot going on too. And we all saw how that played out. So this is another one. And this happens every like spring, summer, and every like winter solstice, every summer solstice. So this is a typical kind of timing for things to get a little wild. And as we can see, our lives are already been wild. I mean, there's been so much inflation, there's been the war, supposedly COVID's dying, but it's really not. And, you know, all that type of thing. Things are getting back to normal. And meanwhile, there's a whole bunch of people who are still depressed from being isolated for so long. So it's kind of like, I feel like it's like a coming out of the ground and reblooming right now, like springtime. One of the first things that popped up into my mind is always Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde is most of the time makes people go insane. So be prepared for those extra readings that you will be getting. The reason it makes people crazy is because their mind gets blocked about what decision they should make. And they don't know how to make that with the right, make that choice without the right information. But that's what Mercury retrograde is all about. It's about waiting till that information pops up so you know which way to go. So instead of freaking out that you don't know, I think it'd be more of a self-reflective time to kind of sit back, almost like the hermit, you know, and the tarot cards, and do like some kind of inner journey while you're waiting, and to see where things go. And that starts on April 25th, 2022. That's the shadow period. So the shadow is the part that will be redone when Mercury retrograde starts.
Okay, and generally, what should we be paying attention to with Mercury retrograde? I mean, I get the sense that something gets stirred, and do we react or do we reflect? And you're saying reflect, but Mercury retrograde happens how many times a year?
4 times a year.
Right.
So, but I think this one's going to be amplified because it is happening within the eclipses. The solar eclipse is basically a new moon, but just amplified, and it's awesome. You know, it's going to be a partial one this time, and I think the lunar is a total eclipse, so that's pretty cool. So the more total it is, the stronger it is. So to me, like basically what a Mercury retrograde is, as you said, like, are you supposed to sit there and reflect? Are you supposed to react? Most people react because they're just reactive, and people go crazy and have mental meltdowns, like literally, like anxiety meltdowns. No joke. And then you get your readings, but what it's all doing is it's there for a reason, and you will start making changes though. They always say, oh, don't sign a lease, don't get a new job, don't do all these things, but that's actually the things that it's causing you to do. You just have to wait a little bit longer to pull the plug to see exactly what's you're doing, because you might have 3 job offers, and which one do you choose, you know? And then the solar eclipse is the partial eclipse. That's on April 30th, and that's 10 degrees Taurus. I don't know if you want to talk about Taurus a little bit.
I always think of Taurus as a little bit of a stubborn energy, or maybe that's the shadow aspect, but in my experience, Taurus is like kind of reluctant energy in a way. And maybe that's what asks us, our higher self, to actually step forward and persevere rather than succumb to the resistance of the shadow aspect of ourselves.
That makes sense. I mean, that is true. And they are stubborn. They are a fixed sign, so it is hard for them to change. But this is going to affect anybody with a fixed sign. So that's Scorpios and some Aquarians, and hold on, it will, anything around, I would say 7 to 13 fixed sign will be triggered by this. But I love the new moon, especially on an eclipse. Like, to me, this is the perfect day planting your intentions. Like I say all the time, just because there's a transit you might think is harsh doesn't mean it has to be harsh. You just make your intention and plant it over that challenge that you think that is going to happen, you know?
I definitely think of transits like that Finding Nemo. Do you know when the dad goes on? I always get the three letters mixed up, the ALC or the ELC, where you have that opportunity to jump in the flow of the collective consciousness or this wave of energy that is pulling you through. And it's a great opportunity. It doesn't mean it feels good or it's comfortable, but it's an opportunity to kind of open up. And maybe it's no different than, okay, it's raining outside, let me get my umbrella or put that extra coat on. It's like, it doesn't mean we live by it, but we can work with it rather than be in an opposition to the energies that are playing out in the cosmos.
Absolutely. I mean, I enjoy looking for squares before I look at easy elements, because easy elements mean you might miss it. You might not even notice that something was in front of you that was an opportunity. We also have some great planets going on here. We have Jupiter and Venus at 27 Pisces. Anybody with any kind of water sign is going to have a lovely little time there. And I happen to be one of those people. And so are you, Crystal. So we should have some, even though there might be some challenges in other places, there's something there that balances it out. And that's more in the Pisces arena, which is maybe we'll be more, in tune to our dreams. There's something that is unlocked that we've been looking for, that we're given a piece to the puzzle. And I know for Pisces, we don't really care about material things the way like a Taurus would, right? Like for a Taurus, they want money. We all want money and stability and, more is better kind of world. But I think the Piscean energy is so pure. It's just so like, I'd rather you give me a rock that you got at your favorite beach than I would like if you gave me a $100 Amazon gift card. Like to me, one means more to me. And I think that's kind of like the Piscean vibe. And with Jupiter there, it's going to enhance, I'm going to also say love and money.
I can see that. And I pulled a couple cards out, and it's interesting because it's playing right into what you say. And what fell out was the idea of truth and planting seeds. So it's like, what are we willing to invest in? When you plant a seed, it requires an emotional and energetic investment. And it seems like these transits are saying, here's the truth. Do you want to put your head in the sand, or do you want to listen and follow through? With the bottom jack energy being the Two of Wands, and really this just speaks to, again, seeing it through.
Yeah And to me, the Two of Wands is always like that choice between the two paths too, right? Like, yeah, what action will I take on what path, or that type of thing. Yeah, interesting. I liked that you said that. So we're having a balancing of rooting ourselves, seeing what we really want, but yet keeping it authentic.
Yeah, and it's interesting. It's so wild because we do not talk about what cards we pull or everything we're going to talk about, and yet it's so just flows, because bottom deck energy is the Queen of Wands with the Queen of Diamonds, and it's like, what are you going to nurture, and how is the emotional body speaking to you to work in the physical plane? And the same two polarities come forward when it speaks to relationships.
Oh, sweet.
Get your deck with the last deck that I pulled out. So dark night of the soul with relationships. So what do you really want, and how do you want to connect?
And it is more on that intimate level. Like some relationships can stay more on the surface, like what can we buy together? What can we get a house together? And some really create that deeper intimacy where you share your soul to each other. And that actually Jupiter and Venus are in the 8th house. So.
Wow. I don't even know what to say.
I know.
But how beautiful to find those intimate parts of ourselves and see that with another. And while it's beautiful to go in hermit mode and reflect, until we connect with another human being, it seems like our own reflection could get lost in translation without the application of being seen, felt, and heard through a connection that is authentic. And it's unfortunate those times when what gets speared back to you is the shadow side or just the demonic ways of human being.
I think to myself, and I've had a lot of reflection this last weekend about like how we can all have our realizations and realize how people and love and all this, like, I don't know if sometimes you look around and you say like, what is this place and why is it happening? Like, is it just for us just to experience and that's it? You know, because it seems of a series of just attracting, loving, or not, and then series of letting go. And you know, it seems like that's what it is. And so is it the universe that just wants to experience all the experiences, and it experiences through us, and we are part of that collectiveness of it growing itself, perhaps, you know.
Yeah, and it's hard to say, and I don't feel like there's any definitives. And when I was reflecting for us to speak about what energies are playing out, I kind of got the sense of a snow globe, like shaking up, like the transits, the energy shaking things up for us.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, when you shake up a snow globe, there's all these particles that just float and they're sparkling. Will we grab on to what sparkles, right? Mm-hmm. Or will we allow the dust to settle and see the bigger picture? And I don't feel like there's any fault to that. I don't feel like the divine says, shame on you for going back into pattern. Shame on you for continuing the same cycle. Instead, it feels like, okay, that's what you chose right now. Next lifetime, let's see what happens. I don't know.
It was so cute. I had a birthday little party this weekend, and I had only my closest friends there, and we like literally vowed to each other that we'll meet each other in the next life.
Oh, that's so special.
Before I was like, oh, I think about those things, but I never say them out loud. Like, your ass better find me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was cute, you know, like just thinking about life and how it is. And I don't know, some people think you got one shot. I definitely don't. To me, astrology in itself shows there's reincarnation, and even just watching ourselves here today, the way we go in our cycles, everything's a cycle. It's, you know, the ending is the beginning is the end, and that's how it is eternally. So
we not just recreate ourselves in a different visual format.
Okay, so May 10th, and then the lunar eclipse is May 15th. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so we do have the lunar eclipse, which is a total eclipse coming up on the 15th. But I just want to bring out right before that is when Mercury retrograde actually starts on May 10th. So this is going to get a little tricky here. And that lunar eclipse is going to be even bigger because, in fact, usually there's something what's called an inferior conjunction between Mercury and the sun. And it makes those two parts of what you can't see like come together and be seen. But when you have an eclipse going on, you might get your information earlier. I've noticed this to be like a pattern. So on May 15th, you might already know at the beginning of this retrograde cycle more than you normally would on a retrograde cycle. So I don't know if you pulled any cards for the lunar eclipse, the total lunar eclipse, because I feel like this one's going to be very strong. This one again takes place. This is the full moon on May 15th, and the nodes are right there next to it.
And this seems like this, I'm not sure if all Mercury retrogrades look like this, and excuse me for my ignorance, but this seems like it expresses a polarity in the way that the lines, like the way it lines up in this chart. Is that congruent with all Mercury retrogrades, or is this?
Well, Mercury will always be close to the sun.
Mhm.
Will always be close to the sun. And this one is in Gemini. So Mercury retrograde expresses itself like via communication.
Okay.
So it being in Gemini, the sign of communication makes it a little bit more interesting. But because it's a full moon and the eclipse, I think it's just going to bring something out that's really, if you're looking for a change, if you're wondering what to do, I feel like this is going to be a key date. I do want to bring out that they are also square Saturn, which sometimes seems a bit heavy. See what comes up.
I got the Eight of Swords and the Queen of Cups. So that feeling of mental entrapment, but with the Queen of Cups, and this particular card shows the seahorses with it, which seahorses, they have a unique way of reproducing and catering to young. So to me, that's more of like outside of the norm, outside of the box. But also when we look at seahorses and other, I don't have the word for it, other sea creatures, they show their emotional experiences. Like they don't hide their emotions. It shows in their skin, the color of their skin and their reaction. And so will you continue to perpetuate those patterns, or will you hide in your own insecurities? And the reason why I say insecurities is because the Four of Hearts is also showing itself. And to me, the Four of Hearts is saying the divine is offering something new versus the three that you held to. It's kind of like glory days versus let's grow up and move on from that.
Yeah, looking at what you have versus
Mhm.
what you don't have. Being in gratitude. Yeah, I would love to hear some stories if anything's hitting anybody at a very close spot. The vertex on that day will be hitting my Jupiter exactly, so that I will report back to you on that. That should, the vertex is what's called a fated interactions, and the nodes, of course, are those connections with like reincarnation, those fated moments as well. So we're gonna have especially because it is a full moon, and you know, it's a full moon in Scorpio. Scorpios, Scorpios are, Scorpio. I don't even know. I love Scorpios, but they are turbulent.
They don't let you hide and they call you right out. They're like this hawk.
But I think there's something beautiful to that true, real emotion, so I can't hate on the Scorpios there. So they make you like be that intimate thing that you're hiding from sometimes. So
it's interesting what also came out was from your deck, the inner child and learning to play. So rather than, I love how you depicted this in your deck, becoming that it's not about inner child wounding, it's about inner child play. And will you allow yourself joy? When I think of play, I think of joy. And can you find whatever you're learning through or going through right now, can you find joy in the process rather than being like pinned down in pains of the past? So kudos to you for this depiction and this expression of the fifth house and the inner child.
And that's interesting too, because Saturn is there, and Saturn is the planet of responsibility. And so this is also, to me, with that card saying, like, let yourself not be responsible one day. Sometimes we get so bogged down with our responsibilities, we forget to tune into that playful side, that lighter side, and learn that we're just like growing beings. We're kids at heart, and we are learning to grow up. I'm still feeling like, when am I going to be an adult soon?
And what if that's okay? Like, when did we decide that's not okay to explore and play? Like, I don't understand what went wrong there.
Okay, so then next we have on the event of May 21st. So this is what, 11 days, wait, can I count? 11 days later. 11 days later after the lunar eclipse, we have the inferior conjunction of the sun and Mercury, which basically is a large complicated word for the sun and Mercury in the same degree and that's 0 degrees Gemini. So this is the date that you will see like a dam opening up, and you like more information being revealed to you, all those things that you might have not seen, that mail that you're waiting for, that job interview that you're waiting to hear back from, all those types of things I think will happen between the lunar eclipse and this day.
So wild that you just said that, because Apollo cards just jumped out while I was shuffling while you're talking. And of course we got the Ace of Swords again, truth. But what came out from that is not only the Nine of Wands, the moon being the secret, not to ignore the Nine of Wands, but to me that's like what you're working through. But we have the King and Queen of Pentacles. So balance in the material realm, whether it is relationship or coming into partnership with a new job opportunity or otherwise. So,
well, it's going to mean something for everyone, a different thing for everyone. We're each working on our own type of projects. And for some people, it will be getting a new job. Some people, it will be getting a new relationship, leaving a relationship, learning how to be in a partnership of whatever kind that may be. Maybe it's a job relationship. Maybe it's turns romantic. I don't know. There's all those types of things. And I really don't like to guess at this, because our minds are so linear and are like in a box that whatever we're thinking of, it could actually be even cooler and more amazing than you're even thinking.
I appreciate you saying that, because there is something bigger for us than our egos can conceive.
Yeah. Yeah. Every time I guess, I'm like, oh my God, it was better than what I thought.
Love it.
Yeah. So, okay. So that's the inferior conjunction date. And I mean, that's pretty much sums it up. I don't care to talk about the end of the retrograde cycle, but I will mention its last date, and that's June 2nd. So we're going to have quite a little wild ride from, the last day of this month in April till June. It'll be, and it's all together. It's all bringing in something that you'll understand at the end of this.
I like that you won't realize till the end. It's kind of like looking back at the breadcrumbs, or looking back and being able to put the puzzle pieces together after you've had time to reflect and see all the gifts rather than the turmoil. Any words of advice, any points of reflection you think that would be imperative to this cycle that's coming up for us?
I mean, like always, to me, there's this one thing I like to always put in my head, and thank God I've taken class to learn how to do this, because my old self did not know how to not react. But if you don't react, you can save yourself a lot of problems. It's like if we really react about something, like anything can turn into a source of conflict, and instead of coming from it from a place of like, okay, I'll listen to you and receive what you're saying. I might not always, understand where you're coming from, but at least meet you halfway, or at least listen to your point and not be reactive, or have that ego part of it. It's way easier to have an easier time through something like this.
Yeah, and even when you're manifesting or setting that intention or making that prayer for guidance, for support, you might have this linear perspective of what you want to receive from the divine. The divine might be laying out this beautiful opportunity for you, but all you can see is how they've taken something away versus how it realigns you to something in the future, or in this case, an opportunity to see a new perspective or respect differences.
And I'm really excited about this one right now, because I have something potentially really big in the world going on. And I'm also really trying to not hold on to it. I'm trying to let it go and just see where it goes. I don't want to be disappointed, or I don't want to put too much, emphasis on it either. But it could be really awesome. And, but I also think if it doesn't happen, the universe knows best for us, right?
Yeah. And I think that's the best place to be, is open to clear out the past, open to receive the guidance right now, and take a step forward, like that fool's journey, the fool's card. Will you take a leap of faith regardless of what you can't see ahead of you. And I think that is the most beautiful act of surrender we can do in our growth process, rather than hold on to the past because it's all we know.
Anything else?
Not that I can think of, just a sense of appreciation for this opportunity to speak with you and to just explore this lifetime. It's easy to get pinned down by the pitfalls, but can we open up to see the blessings? So thank you for being a part of that.
Oh, thank you. And thank you so much for this discussion. And as always, too, we always work so well together. And yeah, we never actually talk about this before we get on camera, and it somehow always makes sense. Yeah.